Good evening. Investigations are continuing after a woman died following a chemical incident at student accommodation in Dorset. Emergency services were called to a property in Gillett Road in Poole last night. It's part of the student village at Bournemouth University. Richard Jones sends this report.
A cold evening at the start of term. Most students were watching TV or working on assignments when they heard sirens and saw flashing lights. Student Josh Wild went to find out what was happening.
There was a police cordon up. We were slightly worried, not really knowing what was going on. Spoke to one of the police officers and they said that it was to do with dangerous chemicals, but they couldn't really tell us much more at that time. Obviously we were slightly nervous, didn't really know what was happening.
We were pretty worried. We made sure that, we asked the policeman, is that okay if we can be around here, make sure we were safe. He said that we should be fine, and it's just contained in one flat.
It's really surprising because you see it on the news, but you don't expect it really to have happened where you live, just down the street from you. So I think there was, an air of shock and bewilderment really that this has happened so close to home.
Today, the university offered support to any student affected by the incident.
An email came around this morning from the university, I think, to all students to just basically tell us that if anyone was affected or felt like they needed to talk to someone, then there was procedures and things in place for that to happen.
The university says the student involved did not have ready access to chemicals. They're still waiting to find out more from the police.
Richard Jones reporting there. In other news, a pedestrian who was killed after being hit by a car during a police chase in Brighton has been named. Jonas Sazvari, who was 78, died after being hit on St James's Street. Police say they haven't traced any family in the UK, but are now looking abroad. 2 men have been arrested. Police are advising women to take extra care following a series of robberies in the Southsea area. They've released this image of a man they would like to talk to. 4 women have been attacked in recent days. The incidents have happened in Outram Road, Bolton Road, Victoria Road North and Campbell Road. The women were aged between 39 and 81. Extra officers have been deployed to try and reassure people.
I think what's a bit alarming to me and to my team is the level of violence used against 2 of the victims who resisted the robbery. We have an increased police presence in the area. We've got officers out in plain clothes, we've got officers out on foot, in cars, but be vigilant, look about you, and if you see suspicious activity, then please report to the police.
There are calls tonight for tighter border controls after a convicted murderer from Holland was allowed into the UK without any checks. He then attacked 2 police officers in Sussex with a hammer. The 35-year-old has now been jailed for life, as Malcolm Shaw explains.
Caught on a body-worn camera, this is the moment Jamsid Peruz, armed with a claw hammer, launched a frenzied attack on police officers investigating a burglary in Crawley. He's tasered 3 times without effect, but is eventually overpowered after being sprayed in the eyes with pepper spray and hit repeatedly with batons. Today, PC Jess Chick told Hove Crown Court she feared she would be killed or left brain damaged. A firearms officer said he came closer to shooting Peruz than anyone else he'd encountered in 20 years.
Both genuinely believed that their time was up and that they weren't going to be able to go home to their families and see their friends again. And for anyone to suffer an unprovoked attack under such circumstances just because they're at work and doing their job is absolutely unacceptable.
Peruz, who's originally from Afghanistan, was granted asylum in Holland and given a passport, but in 2006 he slit the throat of his female Chinese tenant. He was convicted of murder but released after 6 years and was apparently able to fly into the UK unchallenged in January 2016. The court heard he spat at an EasyJet employee at Gatwick but was released by magistrates and attacked the police officers days later.
Those individuals who are very dangerous, in the case of this individual, somebody who committed an Islamic State-inspired murder in the Netherlands, should never have been allowed into Gatwick Airport, into the United Kingdom in the first place.
Perouse pleaded guilty to 2 counts of attempting to cause grievous bodily harm with intent, burglary and affray. His defence told the court he had a psychotic condition and had been deeply traumatised by witnessing his parents being murdered by the Taliban. The Sussex police officers he attacked say they still suffer terrifying flashbacks and nightmares about how close they came to death or serious injury. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Hove.
Communities along the coast in Sussex are being warned about high tides and possible flooding tonight and tomorrow. The Environment Agency has been putting up temporary barriers at Littlehampton East Bank and extra defences in Arundel, Newhaven and Shoreham.
So the tidal surge is coming down the east coast at the moment and it's going to head into the channel. We're not expecting any problems here or elsewhere, but we just want to make sure that there's quite a bit of uncertainty around the forecast, that we're as prepared as we can be and ready to respond. So people can get the most up-to-date flood warnings by going on the .gov.uk website and just searching there for flood warnings.
And there will be a full forecast at the end of the programme. Bin collections in Basingstoke could be reduced from weekly to fortnightly. The council says it will increase recycling and save £1 million a year. Finally tonight, it's 6 months today that Theresa May walked into number 10. Pollsters claim the Maidenhead MP is enjoying the longest honeymoon period of any Conservative Prime Minister since the 1950s. But some are complaining she's indecisive and unsure about Brexit. Here's our political correspondent, Phil Hornby.
It's never been easy to say what makes her tick, what she really believes in. All she'll say is she believes in getting on with the job. During the referendum campaign, she kept mostly silent. David Cameron despaired. Privately, he compared her to a submarine, on manoeuvres, but out of sight. She'd always dreamed of becoming Prime Minister.
I'm Theresa May and I think I'm the best person to be Prime Minister of this country.
And on that midsummer day she walked up Downing Street, she had her message ready. Hers would be a government for everyone, she said, not just the privileged few.
So on this midwinter day, how's she doing? Well, the economy's doing pretty well. Some of her early policy announcements, like putting workers on the boards of companies and bringing back grammar schools, quickly ran into opposition from her own MPs. And as for the biggest policy of all, Brexit, well, her critics say she's muddled and she doesn't really have a plan.
Ever since she first became an MP, she says the residents of Maidenhead have kept her in touch with what ordinary people are thinking. So, 6 months into her premiership, what are they thinking about her?
I think she's actually doing very well in a very, very difficult position.
Trying to handle the situation where she's doing that very well, calm, and with courage. She's good.
She's not been the best representative for our country, but I don't think she's been the worst that we've had.
I think she's doing far better than Cameron, far more direct, far more decisive. Yeah, I've got great faith in her.
Some of her older fans among Tory MPs think there are echoes of Mrs Thatcher.
Remind him of anybody.
What they have in common is an opposition which seems to be making little impact. Mrs May is way ahead in the polls, despite her Thatcher-like problems with strikes and the health service. What's very unusual about her time as Prime Minister is that she'll be judged by one thing and one thing alone, and she knows it.
Brexit means Brexit, and we're going to make a success of it.
In the next few months and the next few years, we'll find out if the MP for Maidenhead really does know how to take the country in the right post-Brexit direction.
Phil Hornby there. Now, is there any more snow on the way? Let's find out. Here's Simon Parkin.
From sleet to the slopes, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Good evening and brace yourself for a weekend of two halves. The first half being the cold and crisp half, but largely dry. The second half being the slightly wetter, but slightly less cold half. Basically, we've got high pressure down to the southwest. It does mean that we've got a decent day tomorrow. A few wintry showers over the next 24 hours. But it's as we head Saturday night into Sunday that a weather front starts to bring in the slightly milder air and also the dampness too. Nothing too major as far as the rain goes. Nuisance rain, but it might be be fairly persistent through the day. For tonight, it's ice that's the big risk, particularly towards the north of the region. Untreated surfaces could be a bit slippery everywhere, though 1 or 2 wintry showers possible during the night, and temperatures fairly widely down to -1, -2, could even get as low as -3 or -4 in some rural spots. So another chilly start to look forward to tomorrow. Again, a few wintry flurries just about here and there, but for the most part dry, fine, plenty of sunshine as we head through Saturday. Temperatures struggling again though, 4 or 5 if you're very lucky, and that very strong wind that we've had today will be still with us tomorrow. Not quite as fierce, but still taking the edge off those temperatures.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Certainly feeling chilly, isn't it? And that's all from us for tonight. We're back tomorrow afternoon at 5:45. But from me, from all of us here on the Late Team, good night.